entrepreneurs are new freedom fighters for India.
Those fighting for India's economic
Freedom. From hunger, from poverty. Finally, India is getting smart. Can we imagine to have 1 million entrepreneurs by 2030? Can we imagine to have 10 million entrepreneurs by 2047?
Mr. Rekhi was the first Silicon Valley Indo-American founder and CEO to take a venture-backed company public on the NASDAQ. The organization TIE, the IndUS Entrepreneurs, of which Mr. Rekhi was one of the founders, which has now turned into one of the largest global mentoring networks for Indian entrepreneurs all around the world, and is now, very excitingly, the author of a recently launched book about his own journey, Ground Big.
Between 1947 and 1991, India spent $300 billion in public sector industries. India spent only $1 billion in all the IITs put together in that time frame. When you invest in people and their brains, benefits are immense. India should have a soft power policy of setting up an IIT in Nairobi or Lodros. If I was a policymaker in India, I would be setting up 1,000 IITs. Every Indian should have an IIT grade education. The brand of India changed in my lifetime from a land of snake charmers and land of beggars to an entrepreneurial technological powerhouse.
This is becoming a two-player AI race. What role does that leave for other countries in the global south, Africa, Asia, India?
Yeah. Indians will implement all the IT solutions for everybody, everywhere. Nobody else has the manpower.
Where do you see the binding constraints for India in creating that kind of ecosystem?
Socialism is the politics of wealth creation. Socialism is the politics of wealth distribution. You cannot distribute what that you don't have.
Welcome to today's episode of our podcast, where it's my honor and privilege to have someone here with me who I've admired, whose work I've seen during both my time in the States and now from India. Someone who's inspired many generations now of entrepreneurs, Mr. Kanwal Rekhi. Sai, it is my real pleasure and honor to welcome you to our podcast today. So welcome.
Well, thank you. It's my honor. It's my pleasure.
So there's so much I'd like to cover with you today, of course. But what I want to start off with is the thing that I can say has maybe shaped your journey the most, which is the phenomenon of entrepreneurship. I think a word that maybe 15, 20 years ago was not so much in the Indian lexicon as it is now.
Yeah.
But of course, you've lived, breathed entrepreneurship now for several decades. I know you've spoken about your journey in your book a lot, but what I want to ask you about entrepreneurship is, over the last several decades that you've witnessed entrepreneurship evolve, not just in the US, but also India and other parts of the world, how are you seeing entrepreneurship evolve from the world of, let's say, the age of PCs and then the internet to now the world and age of AI?
So, the early days, when I did the startup back in 1982, it was by and large technology based entrepreneurship. PC boards, networking, software. Now a lot of entrepreneurship is around services based upon the technology. The apps, the app-based services. The Uber. So there's an evolution because of the technology has been developed and diffused, and those platforms are being used to offer services. And also what the entrepreneurs are trying to do now is to organize an unorganized sector, and where these fragmented market players can be brought on a platform. So there's quite a bit of evolution there. But technology entrepreneurship is still there, but not as much in India as in the US, right?
Yeah. And do you expect that the nature of the entrepreneurship, as it has evolved from the era of the PCs to the era of the internet, where I agree with you, the aggregation of markets and marketplaces, the Amazons, the Ubers, Olas, in our case now, of course, in India, you have all the delivery apps, exactly. Do you expect the nature to change again as AI becomes, let's say, the predominant technological driver?
It's very hard to anticipate, right? But the technology takes strange turns from time to time. The beauty of entrepreneurs is that they imagine what the customer or the market may need, and then they do experiment, and they may take you into direction that you never even thought, right? AI is opening up all sorts of new possibilities. Avatars. Instead of you going to meeting, your avatar will go to a meeting. Instead of you attending a Zoom, your avatar will attend a Zoom. So all sorts of stuff will happen. AI is a very new, exciting field. But I have no idea where it will take us. Simple things are obvious. AI, help me read this translator, help me read this thing. But what's possible is limitless.
Is limitless at this point. Mr. Rekhi, the other change I have noticed, but I want to ask you about, is, as we were talking earlier as well, my own book, The Great Tech Game, is about how technology is intersecting with geopolitics, and how technological competition now is, one can argue, the main geoeconomic and geopolitical competition of our times. Right? So you're seeing the US and China locked in this race for technological leadership in our world. Much like industrial era nations were locked in a race for industrialization, right?
Yeah.
Are you finding that technological entrepreneurship is also being shaped by the fact that technology has become so geopoliticized?
Well, so very interesting to watch what's happening in Ukraine. The drone warfare.
Yes.
Drones can equalize very quickly here. The old idea of tanks, big ships, they can be very easily neutralized with drones.
That's right. And
Much cheaper, more
agile
fast moving.
drones,
You
correct.
learn something new and you immediately implement, right?
Yeah.
So I think technology is now sort of getting into everything, and nature of the war is changing as a result. You do disable the other guy's infrastructure. You're using internet. I don't know if you remember the story a few years ago. All the concentrators of uranium in Iran were taken over by Israel and ran at over high speed and burnt out, right?
Burnt out, correct.
So I think technology is changing every aspect of geopolitics. To become a superpower it means something different now than it used to mean.
And is your sense that governments today are, as a result, because of these geopolitical concerns and technology being such a central part of that geopolitical battle, is your sense that government is tracking and driving tech entrepreneurship more than it was when, let's say, you started?
Well,
or was it that the geopolitics of that time was still impacting what was being done?
So I'll come back to India in a second. American has always been driven by geopolitics. The Cold War drove the technology, the investments in chips, and all that was made to support the space program,
the space wars at that time.
And all sorts of things, and then spilled over to the civilian use, right? Internet was initially
DARPA.
The whole TCP/IP internet was used to make a network that can survive the battlefield. So when we adopted TCP/IP to the real world, it was thought to be not fit, but it turned out not to be true. But the wars and the Cold Wars, geopolitics has always driven technology. In India, we didn't play smart game till recently. We bought the equipment from overseas. We put our faith in the other people's supply. But lately, the India and the Indian armed forces are starting to depend upon Indian entrepreneurs. We have opened up this defense to the entrepreneurs. We have opened up the space to the entrepreneurs. We have opened up the even the nuclear to the entrepreneur. So finally, India is getting smart. It's finally realizing that let entrepreneurs imagine what's possible, Let our entrepreneurs know what the problems we are facing, and then have them come up with solutions. So geopolitics is going to be driven by entrepreneurs.
Yeah, I think another key dimension of this geopolitical or the intersection of technology and geopolitics, Mr. Rekhi, as I see it, is the geopolitical battle over the best talent. Right? Technology is ultimately built by human talent, about entrepreneurs. You were part of a generation from India, I guess many generations from India, where we used to talk about brain drain. Some of the best Indian talent, I won't say all, some of the best Indian talent used to immigrate abroad. Still happens. The US, of course, has been the beneficiary of that from all over the world, not just Indian talent, but really the best talent from all over the world. How do you see that geopolitical battle over the best talent evolving, given that at the same time as this technological revolution, there are on the other side concerns around immigration and societal integration and inequality, driving a whole different backlash?
So, of course, the Sputnik, right? Russians launched Sputnik and beat America into space. And the Americans were they thought they were way ahead of Soviet Union. And my God, Russians are ahead of us in space. What if they put an atom bomb in space? We are in trouble. We don't have enough engineers. We don't have enough programmers. The change of law in 1965. Hey, we need engineers. Till then, they only allowed immigration from Europe. And we need engineers and programmers. Europe doesn't have any spare. Open it up. Indians and Chinese very quickly came to America. I went there. America benefited immensely. 5 million Indians in America now. 25% of all the engineers in America are Indian Americans. 25% of the entrepreneurs are Indian Americans. So geopolitics played a major role. I was being interviewed by BBC in 2001, and in London, and they said, "How come you went to America?" Surely, the Indians would have preferred to come to England.
To England, correct.
And surely, we knew us better. And my answer to them was very straightforward. Surely, you knew us better as servants and butlers but England was not letting engineers and programmers into England as immigrants in 60s. They had banned. You only were allowed into England if you were a servant, if you were a worker, if you were engineers and doctors. No. We don't want you to replace our engineers and doctors. So they suffered. Australia went through the same motion. America, ended up having all the smart people. But then there was a race. Everybody opened up. Everybody opened up to Indians. But lately, things are a little bit weird, right? The America is not sure it wants any more engineers and doctors. Right? My sense is this will not last very long, because American dependence on foreign talent, especially the Indian talent, is fairly absolute. You cannot imagine America functioning without Indian talent. Silicon Valley, we are not the Johnny come lately in the Silicon Valley. I have been there from the start. I've been there from the start. We helped build the Silicon Valley. And, the AI revolution, if you start peeling, the Indian talent is driving the AI, even in America.
In Silicon Valley, correct. No, that's right. You have a lot of Indian founders, Indian researchers.
The top guys that Doodle, ChatGPT are Indians.
Correct. Many of them are either Indian or of Indian origin.
I should use Indian origin.
But what does all of this mean then for today, given the historical context that you've had the benefit of seeing, right, that previous era, and how geopolitics drove some countries to attract, but some countries to resist this talent, and that had major economic implications for those two countries.
America has become.
How do you see that? What are the lessons for India in this?
So America has become the most innovative country because it did prioritize and attract the talent. So they want Mehta, who was a president of NASDAQ. He used to have a saying, brain drain is much better than the brain in the drain. He said, our brains went out. Our brains went out. And we have built a brain trust. India has built a brain trust. Because these guys have gone to America, went to the best universities, have done, really trained, and they're doing things. How does India benefit from that one? India is benefiting. People like me are coming back. People are a lot more are coming back than before. But China had a very organized program. China had a program called the Sea Turtle programs, where they went to America and said, please come, we'll give you same salary and same benefits that you have here to come back to China. So they were not using the patriotic appeal. They were also using the economic appeal. That, hey, you're making $1 million a year as a professor researcher. I'll replicate the lab that you have here in China. So China has been able to attract the talent, but the Indians have not done that. India has not done. Maybe India should think about how do we attract some of these people back. You cannot be saying come back to this bureaucratic place and suffer. These guys are doing top-notch work. And if you offer them same environment, same type of thing, it's probably not possible. Probably not possible, right? Because it will cause turmoil in the ranks. China didn't do it until they got rich. China is 5 times richer than India. So maybe our current state of affairs is not that bad. If we keep getting richer, like we have been steadily getting richer as a country, someplace, this thing will become more natural thing to do.
Let's talk about the role of government, Mr. Rekhi. So, as you mentioned, of course, even in the previous Cold War era, government was driving a lot of the tech innovation and entrepreneurship for its military or geopolitical needs. But there's the other side of government, which is regulation, right? The government can both be an enabler of innovation, but can also be a regulator of innovation. Today, as we see industrial strategy make a comeback, as this technological competition over AI and other technologies heats up between the US and China and other countries, governments are feeling that if they don't do enough, somehow they'll be left behind as countries. But the natural corollary of that is they also tend to end up maybe over-regulating sometimes. And there's this whole question of how do you balance regulation with innovation for a technology like AI, which is seemingly very high risk also. Views on that?
So in India, there was a third thing also. In India, the government owned a lot of businesses, a lot of technology.
That's right, of course.
And the government has a need, especially for the national defense geopolitics, to make sure that we have some level of self-reliance in the defense area. You can't depend upon others to supply you everything. So I will fully grant that government should do some level of enabling, empowering, directing, investing. But by and large, government should find a way to encourage R&D in private sector. Government should find a way to enable entrepreneurs, to take bigger risks, and should let them play, because innovation is a outcome of a free mind, imagination of a thinker, because innovation doesn't just make happen. Somebody has an aha moment, right? And so how do we enable large number of people? And I have been preaching lately that India is a country of $1.4 billion. We finally have allowed the entrepreneurship to happen, but we only have 200,000 entrepreneurs in India. Very small number, very small number. It's a drop in the bucket. Can we imagine to have 1 million entrepreneurs by 2030? Can we imagine to have 10 million entrepreneurs by 2047? Okay. What do we need to be doing to enable 1 million entrepreneurs in India or 10 million entrepreneurs? So to have a 10 million entrepreneurs, maybe 20 to 30 million try, and then three of them drop out. So you cannot have what we have now, 160-page definition of entrepreneurship. In that the document they produce. You cannot have somebody certifying that you have an innovation. The government in India requires to be considered a startup that you must have innovation, and somebody, a government sanctioned body has to. These are dumb things. Nobody knows what's an innovation. Nobody knows an innovation until after it has happened. Oh, that was pretty innovative way of doing things. So they have to let it happen. And the last other things I want to mention is that entrepreneurs need money. Lots number of entrepreneurs need lot of money. If I was to have a million entrepreneurs, each one needs, let's say, $100,000, $1 lakh, right? That's $100 billion of venture capital I need to provide them. Where is that going to come from? If I have 10 million entrepreneurs, that's $1 trillion worth of venture capital. So how do we as a country roll out the red carpet, get rid of the red tape, to have all the world's savings flow into Indian ecosystem, Indian entrepreneurial ecosystem? It is very hard right now to invest in India. It's very painful. The policies are, Indian government wants to build a VC system in India. To build a VC system in India, they are trying to discourage the foreigners to invest in India. That's the policy framework. Why can't we have foreigners invest at the time they are building Indian system? Why don't we change the tax rules? In America, if you invest in a startup, there are zero taxes. On your first $10 million, then neither entrepreneur pays any taxes, nor the investors pay any taxes.
Correct.
That's not true in India. America is way ahead of us, and they are still incentivizing both investors and entrepreneurs through this. In India, we have to have a taxes. There's this unholy fear of foreigners owning our IP, the unholy fear that the rich are getting richer. Rich will get richer. Entrepreneurship, by definition, will produce winners who will be rich. Right?
No, that's right. You have to be happy about that.
You have to be happy about that.
You have to be happy about that. And you hope that then the trickle-down effects will
trickle-down effect, them plowing back into things.
Or them becoming venture investors.
Venture investors, they understand the process. I think the fundas are not clear yet. We don't have a policy making with a purposefulness. Let's define the goal of what we are trying to do. We are trying to become strategically self-reliant, right? But we also are trying to create tens of millions of jobs. India has a very large young population which needs jobs. Look at the current setup. 800 million people are being fed by the government of India. Because they can, that's the policy, and I'm glad we are able to do it. But our goal ought to be, how do we make these 800 million people self-reliant, self-employed, so we don't have to feed them? So the first thing has to be, how do we turn our entrepreneurs loose to create jobs in India on a mass scale? While the government is funding some defense work, some strategic IP development, the bulk of the things has to be creating jobs in India.
Absolutely, correct. That's what can drive, as you're rightly saying, the bulk of the Indian population.
And as India gets richer, it will have more money to invest in R&D, more money to do. As Indians get smarter, see, remember, if you succeed by the time you're 30, 35, 40, you still have 30, 40 years of life ahead of you. And now you have resources, now you are free, now you have experience. And you will take bigger risks, So first thing first, how do we create 10 million entrepreneurs?
And so where do you see the binding constraints for India in creating that kind of ecosystem which is lots and lots of entrepreneurs, some that are very innovative entrepreneurs, some are that, let's say, doing more service-driven entrepreneurship, and a whole mix of entrepreneurs. What is the binding constraint that you still find?
There is no difference between service entrepreneurs and technology entrepreneurs. They all create jobs. They all create wealth. So if you start to fixate on, I need IP, technology-driven, where would India be without Wipro and Infosys and TCS?
Correct.
They are paying for the oil we import. They are all services-driven entrepreneurs. I remember people used to say, these guys are not entrepreneurs, they are techno-toolies. Give me more of them, right? I think we should not fixate our job. As long as we are producing jobs in India, wealth is being created, it's fine. Coming back to where the problems are, we were socialist in 70s, 80s, government-owned, licensed, permit quota. We got rid of bulk of it in 91. But we are still very bureaucratic. The ICS was set up to rule India. IAS is the successor body. They haven't been reformed. They are still ruling us. The government somehow doesn't trust the people. I still, it's a lot better. I don't want to say it hasn't changed, but there's a lot of room to improvement. Nobody is smart enough to know what is the right thing for India. Let the millions of entrepreneurs try. Let them fight in the marketplace. Let them suffer or win in the marketplace.
Mr. Rekhi, let me now also change tack and start talking in detail about how the AI landscape is evolving. We've touched the big picture items of how entrepreneurship is evolving, how geopolitics and tech have intersected, the role of government, the role of course, entrepreneurs in building a vibrant economy, the constraints maybe that India is facing. But of course, now the new big thing in the world of technology, for better or for worse, is AI. India is also hosting, as we were discussing just earlier, the Global AI Summit, the India AI Impact Summit in February. The last few years, last 2-3 years, India is also trying to evolve its own strategy for AI as the world gets engrossed in yet another competition over AI leadership, especially the US and China. When it comes to AI now, talk to us from the vantage points that you are seeing it. How is the AI landscape evolving? What are you seeing as the main contours of that landscape?
Well, so AI, there is this technology development that took 30-40 years to develop. It's finally maturing, to the point where it can be it can be used productively. The underlying hardware platform, underlying software platforms have become powerful enough. Back earlier, I remember the AI research being done in 60s and 70s, and one of my mentees did his PhD in AI at Stanford. That part is done. India didn't participate, wouldn't have been able to participate, and it doesn't matter. Right? Here we are. So we are back to where we were in 90s with respect to IT. We didn't do the databases, we didn't do any of the compilers, we didn't do any of stuff, but we were the biggest beneficiary of IT revolution. Once it
were we the biggest beneficiary, Mr. Rekhi, though? It was great for India, but were we the biggest beneficiary, or were the companies that developed underlying technology the biggest beneficiaries?
We were very big, let's not say use the word biggest, we were very big beneficiary.
Correct. Compared to what we were, what sectors and industries we were doing in India, the fact that IT services industry arose from
out of nowhere,
with
no investment from the government of India.
Incredible.
Yeah.
But my question was...
Now I was trying to answer your question more directly. When the technology starts to diffuse in the society, it needs to be, everybody needs to implement. All the companies, small and large, need to implement. And there is no manpower anywhere in the world spare to do that. And that's going to be the opportunity for us again. Indians will implement all the IT solutions for everybody, everywhere.
So even in the AI era, you're saying that Indian engineers, Indian manpower can help will help companies, enterprises, small and big, adopt AI, and that's a real niche that we can continue to capture.
We can continue to do that. Nobody else has the manpower, smart manpower. Nobody. Europe will need it. US will need it. What you should see is that very high quality jobs are being produced for Indians in that space. It appears that we are helping them, but those jobs are impacting India also. Just also remember the whole IT revolution led to large number of smart people who were very much on top of what the world needs. They were very much on top of all the latest tools, and they are becoming entrepreneurs now, and they are doing things. So this knowledge that you absorb when you're implementing is the knowledge that you need to become an entrepreneur. So this is a natural thing for India. India is a large country. It needs its jobs. It has a large number of smart people. Let's make these smart people very productive very quickly, and some of them will emerge to become entrepreneurs. As India gets richer, China is 5 times richer than India. Mm-hmm. As India gets richer, it ought to be investing in 1,000 IITs. It ought to be funding more research in IITs. That's driven. But that's not going to feed people now. That's not going to give jobs to now. Research, R&D, IP development is 30-40 year cycle. This drug, the weight loss drugs that we are using, GLPs. You know when the research was done? In 70s.
Correct.
70s, they discovered those
60
proteins.
years later, correct.
And then it took them another 30-40 years to figure out. So I think our need is, how do we make sure that we get rid of poverty? How do we make sure we have jobs for all the Indians? How do we make sure that we use our smartest people? They should be, we should be very proud. The brand of India changed in my lifetime from a land of snake charmers and land of beggars to a entrepreneurial technological powerhouse.
Yeah.
Even though we are not developing technology, but our brand is very strong, right?
Yeah. And for you, would the brand in 30 years for India be the same, or would you expect it to evolve into something different also? Given the immediate need, of course, as you rightly emphasize, is jobs.
So let me give you a long-term perspective. Long-term perspective. In 1800, when the British took over India, right? We were the world's largest, most productive, most creative, most entrepreneurial economy. 25% of the GDP of the world was India. When they left,
we were 2-3%, I think.
We're down to 2%. I'm just use approximate numbers. But the tragedy of India was, from 1947 to 1991, we didn't rely on our entrepreneurs, and our share of the GDP went down to 1%.
Correct.
So now in 91 we have changed, and now we are back up on the same, we are about 3.5% of the world GDP. So now we are going to be third largest economy pretty soon, 5 years from now. I'll be happy being third largest. Should we try to be number 2, or should we reclaim our number 1 spot? That we were in 1800. So my point is that we should go for the number 1 spot, have a 50-year long-term plan.
Yeah.
And it's going to be done by our entrepreneurs. So how do we educate every Indian to IIT quality education? How do I enable environment to have 1% of Indians become entrepreneurs? And how do I make sure that I start developing the culture of R&D and not worry about short-term, 30 years, 40 years out, the results will start to show. That's what China did, by the way.
Correct.
China absolutely depended upon American technology, American capital, but they played the long game.
No, that's right. And so, in a way, what you're recommending, if I can summarize it, it's a combination of short-term focus on job creation, employment, education, wealth creation for the large population that we have.
All of us,
Correct, all of us. Along with a slightly longer-term R&D innovation focus with an eye on, let's say, technologies of the future and not just technologies of the past.
We should not reinvent the wheels. We should not invent. I'll give you a couple of thoughts. Look at what happened in telecom sector. Sam Pitroda and I used to debate in 80s and 90s. Sam was saying we need to develop our own IP, our own switches, our own this and that. He set up CDOT. $10 billion were given to him by Rajiv Gandhi's government. And what he came up with, that's solution, one phone per village, right? And he said in a debate to me in Chicago, one man, one telephone is a wasteful Western luxury that India can ill afford. And I kept saying, we need to adopt the technologies there, cheap, reliable, and diffuse it and let every Indian have a service. And he won the first argument, I won the second argument. Yeah. When Vajpayee came to power, he adopted my approach. And that has revolutionized India. We didn't develop any technology there.
Correct. So in a way, this whole debate that is very much, I think, alive in India today, which is of should we be an AI innovation player or an AI adopter, AI diffuser? Should we be playing the innovation big boys game, or should we be the use capital? In a way, what I'm hearing you say, Mr. Rekhi, is do both.
Do both.
In the short term, adopt,
yeah.
diffuse, but at the same time have the China-like long-term focus. Right?
We cannot be dependent upon everybody else forever, but we have to depend upon others for now.
That's right, because I think one of the key lessons from the colonial era is that dependence, over-dependence, or being constrained geopolitically, militarily, otherwise, leads to, as you were rightly pointing out, going from 25% of GDP to 2%.
2%.
So in a way, you have to unshackle the constraints of dependence, but not necessarily be worried about adopting technology from outside.
And the drones technology has proven that you can build a very strong offensive defensive capability very cheap.
Correct.
So
of course, we have counter drone systems also coming.
No, I'm saying do that. We have an absolute guarantee that nobody will attack us. We have nuclear arms. We have missiles. Nobody will dare. We cannot attack Pakistan because they have nuclear arms. So there is a defensive stuff that you very quickly build by having that capability. But that doesn't feed the people. That doesn't take care of you. Pakistan is betting money all the time while they have nuclear arms, right? India is doing much better than Pakistan. I think our total defense needs are taken care of. We don't have any offensive plans to rotate over Thailand or Malaysia or Sri Lanka. So we don't need the offensive capability, but we are very well prepared. Also, by the way, defense will become a very big export. You do better drones.
There's many countries in the world that could benefit from India being an exporter of defense technology.
And we are starting to do that one, right? But the core problem that we need to solve is how do we make sure there's no poverty in India. There's no uneducated person in India. See, you cannot have India and Bharat, where one side is modern, confident, moving forward, other side is stuck in the mud. You cannot have a body where my one arm is very strong and one arm is dead. Your body is weak and unhealthy when your one arm is dead or your one leg is dead. Yeah. And that's the problem in India. We need to make sure we pull them out of poverty. How do we do a entrepreneurship in third, fourth tier cities? I'll tell you a couple of stories. We recently set up, I was part of it, a Kanwal Rekhi Rural Entrepreneurship Center in Nizamabad near Hyderabad. Our goal is to train the entrepreneurs who are helping villages, third tier, fourth tier cities, bootstrap themselves up. Smart people. Those people are no less smarter than we are.
Of course, absolutely.
So how do we empower them? So I'll tell you two stories. There's this young guy, 22-year-old. He went from this village to do his BTEC at one of the regional engineering schools. He came and he became a member at one of the resident entrepreneurs at our center. Then he went back to his village and very quickly realized that village is stuck in the mud. No electricity. They're still in lamps. They're still using he started to use solar panels, solar batteries, electrified all the houses. Everybody, it has a power. But then he looked at all the implements, tools people use. They are primitive. He started to improve them.
Correct.
Within a year, 18 months, the incomes in the village doubled. And neighboring villages are saying, please help us, please help us. So he set up a company. This year, he did 5 crores in revenue. And he is thinking that he will do 50 crore in about 3 to 4 years.
Mr. Rekhi, that reminds me, in my own book, I have a chapter that talks about exactly this, how within 1.5 hours of Delhi, the capital of India, you'll see vestiges of multiple great games, as I've called them in my
Yeah.
book, still existing.
Yeah.
You have people playing still what I call the agri game.
Mm.
People playing the small trading game. People playing the great industrial game. And then, of course, we're sitting in Gurgaon as we speak.
Yeah.
People playing, companies playing the great tech game, what I've called it.
Yeah, yeah,
And somehow all of them are coexisting in India
I mean,
in a very small.
as Delhi expands into Noida, into Gurgaon, you can see, and but there'll be these strips. We need to enable, empower our youngsters to become entrepreneurs and to solve the local problems using latest technology.
Correct.
Yeah, policy framework should be thinking along that line.
Yeah. One of the other focus areas, Mr. Rekhi, that I want to get your views on at the AI Summit is going to be about the role the Global South is going to play in the whole AI race. One of the key concerns that's arising in other parts of the world, outside of the US and China, is that this is becoming a two-player AI race. What role does that leave for other countries in the world, especially countries in the Global South, Africa, Asia, India? How do you envision them participating and benefiting from this race?
Okay, so I think India, China has used Belt and Road Initiative to spread its soft power, but that is sort of really a neocolonialism. I will loan the money to you, the old money lender. You will never be able to pay me back.
So I'll take over.
Yeah, I'll take over your stuff, right? That old Zamindari in India, right?
That's right.
India should play a different game. Yeah. India should have a soft power policy of setting up an IIT in Nairobi or Ladros and setting up a Thai chapter, maybe a STP, software technology part, have a 20-year plan. That's what we did. That's how we went from being from a land of beggars and snake charmers to land of entrepreneurs and technology. It's not going to help you tomorrow, but will definitely help you day after tomorrow. So India should become the conduit of training these people. As we are the intermediaries in that space. So my basic sense is India. My perspective of India, India is a noble experiment, free, democratic, and finally also market-driven, right? At the time of independence, our founding fathers got the politics right.
But they didn't get the economic.
They didn't get the economic right. The politics done constitutional democracy with the universal suffrage. Country that poor, that illiterate, that diverse has sustained democracy for 18 cycles, right? But we drew inspiration from Soviet Union and Fabian socialism. I want to redefine the capitalism and socialism for you. Capitalism is a politics of wealth creation. Socialism is a politics of wealth distribution. You cannot distribute what that you don't have.
You don't have. Correct. You have to grow the pie.
Yeah. So we ended up adopting
pie.
socialism when we didn't have any wealth. And we kept everybody poor. So I want to define the entrepreneurs for you in a different way. Entrepreneurs are new freedom fighters for India. Just like we had freedom fighters who taught us the independence.
They might have fought for the political freedoms very successfully. But now you're seeing entrepreneurs as those fighting for India's economic freedom.
Yeah, from hunger, from poverty.
Yeah. No, I think very, very nicely put. I think very nicely framed, Mr. Rekhi. And as someone who's been in the same fields of entrepreneurship and venture capital and technology, I couldn't agree more. Let me now ask you a question before we move on to some personal life lessons that I want to ask you before we conclude. Let me ask you, are we today in an era of AI focusing too much on AI? Could AI be a bubble? Are we at the risk of focusing so much on AI that we are ignoring other very substantive technologies that we should be focusing on?
This is back to the same thing I told you about the telephone. We ought to be adopting available technologies to help our masses.
So whether it's in healthcare or
education, food, I mean, that is a must. Otherwise, you'll have this India where we can put a man or things in this space, but bulk of the Indians are starving. It can make you feel good that we cannot continue that model forever. We should do research in AI. We should follow the technology, but we should keep a bit attention to this.
From your vantage point, sitting in the Silicon Valley, and of course knowing India so well, other than AI today, for the next 5, 10-year, 15-year horizon, what are other technologies? Now I'm going back to that longer-term strategic focus that you were mentioning. What should Indian entrepreneurs be looking at?
If I was a policymaker in India, I would be setting up 1,000 IITs. I'll be setting up 1,000 IITs as the number one priority. Every Indian should have an IIT-grade education. Without that, you are not going to do anywhere. Our biggest resource is our brains, and we need to make sure they're sharp. And let the entrepreneurship happen on a mass scale. Let's not obsess about this and that.
As you're saying.
Let the entrepreneurs figure out what the world needs.
And let the entrepreneurs only decide which technologies
are
the future.
And by being in the marketplace and solving the solution, the problems that customers have, and winning and losing, right? The winners will, let the market decide. So let me give you a little bit of history also. Between 1947 and 1991, India spent $300 billion in public sector industries. India spent only $1 billion in all the IITs put together in that time frame. You can do the ROI calculations. The $300 billion didn't even return enough to pay for the inflation.
Right.
I think when you invest in those things, you feel good. I'm building something. No. When you invest in people and their brains,
it's a longer term.
It's a benefits are immense.
Correct.
So by the way, that's what happened in China. China and Vietnam, they have zero illiteracy. China and Vietnam, have emphasized education and healthcare over everything else, right? So it's never too late to do the right thing.
Absolutely agree. Let me now ask you about some broader life lessons, Mr. Rekhi, given the immense, I think, experience and exposure and experience you've had with technology, mentorship, and of course immigration from one country to the other. There are a few questions I want to ask you. One is, do you expect immigration to be a key priority for Indian youngsters going forward as well, given what we are seeing in the world? Should they be looking at immigration as the...
So our generation had no jobs. We came out of IITs and there were no suitable jobs. America opened up and we went and we availed ourselves of the opportunity and we made the most out of it, right? This generation doesn't have that problem. There are jobs, there is opportunity,
jobs available.
There are entrepreneurship.
As the economy has grown.
Entrepreneurship is happening. India has opened up. So the total problem that we had is different now than back then. We were welcome. Americans thought they needed people. Americans have absolute right to decide that they don't need anybody. They have absolute right to be silly and stupid. Because they do need it, but they don't think they need it. We don't have a birthright to go to America.
Right.
We don't let the Bangladeshis come and take our best jobs, right, and become all the CEOs. So I think given all that, the things have changed, and to me, for better for India, let the smartest people stay here, let them go back to the village. We are to see how do we bootstrap ourselves from this area to a new era, and that problem will be solved by smart Indians. And so, we don't have the Harvards and MITs and CMUs. We have to send people to keep studying, but find a way to make sure that they come back.
Let me also ask you about the relationship technology people are having with technology now. Right? So completely different set of questions, but the relationship of humans with technology when it was a few devices, some PCs, was very different. Those were, as I envision them, large technological systems, right? Space, large computers, etc. Today, of course, as we've been discussing, it's in the hands of everyone. Now it's gone from smartphones to now chat GPTs and AI companions. Given, Mr. Rekhi, the vast number of decades in a way you've seen the relationship of humans and technology evolve, what advice do you have for the younger generations as they navigate their relationship with technology? How to maybe not become over dependent, how to have a healthy relationship. Thoughts on that?
I'm not a philosopher, and I'm not. So from my perspective, you cannot let the technology dehumanize you. The human beings are social animals. We love music, we produce music, we love relationships. That adds to your quality of life. But technology is a productivity enhancing tool.
Right.
It can make you productive, 10 times more productive, right? We never have to ask directions anymore. GPS takes you there, right?
That's right.
It's amazing how much productivity improvement has happened in India. The India stat, the UPI.
The digital public infrastructure.
Yeah, it is amazing. It is amazing. So but we need to have more philosopher's spirit. You cannot do without technology.
Absolutely.
Those villagers need more technology.
So as I put it, and I don't know if you'd agree, as I put it in my book, I see technology as a key factor of production today. If you need people and you need a space, you need technology also. As
productivity enhancer.
Correct. Great productivity.
It's a force multiplier. So the villagers are stuck in the mud because we have not just.
But there's one set of users that, of course, you're absolutely right in saying that technology, the use of technology by everyone is helping lead into productivity. I would say two things. One is productivity enhancement. Second is market integration. Today, a small manufacturer sitting in rural India can very easily connect with their export.
It can participate in the market create wealth. People who don't participate in the market are left out and they are poor. So the average American farmer is 30 to 40 times more productive than the average Indian farmer.
Correct. So the adoption of technology, there's of course other issues, right? Like the land size holdings and all of that. But I completely agree with you. I think the integration of technology into your agriculture, of course, should be much faster.
I don't think we should adopt the American methods of large farms, totally mechanized. But we can use technology to improve the yields by factor 2 or 3 or 4 very quickly. Better soil analysis, better drip emitter system, better usage, more solar, energy being utilized to. I think you can use technology to make Indians a lot more productive in every walk of life. Being more productive means we produce more. That is more to do around, and more to do around. So here is the fundamental thing. The democracy and markets are matched pair. They are both about choices.
Correct.
Democracy lets you vote for candidate A or candidate B.
As you were saying, political freedom, economic freedom.
And in the marketplace, you vote every day with your rupees for product A or product B, service A or service B. It's all about choices by the masses. When you start to put socialism is a handful of people deciding what's good for you. You can only have ambassador car. You can only have this. Phone is luxury item. Somebody is limiting your choices. So that's what was our problem. We have it right now. Americans are no smarter than Indians. Absolutely. Americans are no harder working than Indians. But they got this match pair right for a longer period. We finally are there. It's a matter of time. The markets will produce enough wealth. And the beauty of the democracy is that rules of the road are not fixed. If rich are getting richer and the participation is not universal, we have a democracy to change the laws.
A mechanism is there, correct?
Mechanism is there to change the laws. So what happens in a system? You go from what I call the politics of wealth creation to politics of wealth distribution. In America, Germany and Japan are getting ahead of us. Deregulate, lower the taxes. That's what happened in the 80s in America. And America, economy took off. oh, rich are getting richer. We are not getting our share of the wealth. Let's tax the rich. Let's regulate and let's distribute. So you create, distribute, create, distribute. That's how
correct.
you ratchet up.
Yeah.
We cannot worry about stop creating.
Correct.
Yeah.
Absolutely. As we conclude, I'd like to ask you, as we try and end every podcast, Mr. Rekhi, is suggestions of other people that you suggest we speak with. So other podcast guests, and they can be really from anywhere in the world. And also, I know that you've just written a book, groundbreaker, about your own journey, but also other books that you would recommend for our listeners.
I had there are lots of smart people. Just to let you know, there's not a person in Silicon Valley who has been honored by the Indian honors. There's no one Padma Shri, no. Their impact on India is phenomenal. The message there, right? You're not been. There are a lot of people in Silicon Valley that you should talk to, because they are at the forefront.
So give us some names of some
people that you
recommend we speak with.
Swash Patel, is there. We are to put entrepreneurship front and center in India.
Correct.
We are to think of these people as our nation builders, our freedom fighters, and not because richer and richer. Rich have to get richer, so we can tax them to distribute. I said,
Correct. And then enable the rest of society then to have a chance at also moving upwards.
So what happens is when you regulate, tax, the economy slows down, you're distributing. And they say, oh my God, Germany and Japan are doing it, China that ahead of us. Deregulate, lower the taxes, you start creating. Oh my God,
now distribute.
pendulum has to swing back and forth.
And
that mechanism is there in India. It's not there in China. By the way, I think China will have a moment. Their stresses are being built in China, in which have no outlet. India is very much stress-free internally because of democracy.
Correct.
I'm not saying that it will happen tomorrow. There will be an implosion in China at some time. Like we have in Iran. When you have no outlet, when a handful of people are making all the decisions, eventually
something has to give.
And
that's a moment that India should be ready to maybe capitalize on.
India should have this 30, 40, 50-year long plan.
This has been fascinating, Mr. Rekhi. Thank you so much for, of course, taking the time today to be with us on this podcast. But more importantly, thank you for everything you've done over the last several decades for entrepreneurship, both in terms of what you've done, but also in the entrepreneurship you've helped mentor and unleash.
India is a noble experiment. Country that large, that poor, that illiterate, has sustained democracy over 18 years. India and China are two experiments side by side.
Massive experiment.
Massive experiments. Let's start 50 years out.
No, thank you so much, and I hope future generations can learn, I think, from the various, lessons you've drawn from your own experiences. Thank you so much.
Thank you.